Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are going to have a little chat about Ghazghkull and whatever Space Wolves character turns out to be the lucky lad who gets shunted over the Rubicon Primaris and gets a bit of an upgrade, because once again we're in a position whereby, assuming Games Workshop does release another Primaris character, which I'm assuming they will at this point. We've talked about this already in a video, but there's various possibilities as to what could happen for Saga of the Beast, whether it could just be two characters, whether it could just be one character, whether we could see an entire box of Space Wolves versus Orcs, but I'm starting to lean increasingly towards the idea of it simply being a case of the norm. Ghazghkull gets a model, and a Space Wolves character gets a Primaris model, because there's a chance here for a Primaris character, and I don't really see Games Workshop passing that up. I'd be surprised if they did, anyway. But it leads to one of those age-old problems, and a problem that we've seen several times already when it comes not just to Psychic Awakening, but just Warhammer as a whole, whereby two significant characters get a significant upgrade. Unfortunately, Warhammer 40k is entirely based around war, as the name suggests, and as such, someone kind of has to be on the losing side. Now, of course, we don't have a situation, really ever, where someone outright loses. Otherwise, the entire basis of the universe, this stagnant mess of chaos and bloodshed, would very quickly swing one way or the other, and they'd have to make some real progress in the storyline, and actually have someone face serious and severe consequences and, actually lose, which they can't do. It's one of those things whereby the Warhammer 40k universe is technically progressing, and the story does go along, and things do happen, but the overall status quo is very rarely, if ever, changed, because you can't change it. Even when Chaos did a full naughty and opened a vast rift across the galaxy and mangled the Imperium, you would think that'd be enough to finish the stagnant and crumbling Empire off, but of course it's not, because you need to have something to offset that. Of course, in that case, in the form of the Primaris, because otherwise the Imperium loses, the galaxy just collapses in itself, it's just all chaos, and away we go. The story has come to a conclusion. Not gonna happen. The problem with that overall level of balance that needs to be maintained is that there are unsatisfactory circumstances every now and again where someone gets the big break they deserve. A fan favourite gets a new model, and they get a bit of chunky, hefty story, and nothing really comes of it. And the latest candidate for that, unfortunately, is Ghazghkull. Not only Ghazghkull, but whoever gets the Primaris treatment from the Space Wolves. Because we're in a situation again whereby, to do some sort of big climactic event, you would expect Ghazghkull to have a fight with a significant Space Wolf. The thing is, Ghazghkull shouldn't really be in a position to lose that fight. In fact, I think it's fair to say that it would be kind of crap and irritating if Ghazghkull did lose a fight with a significant Space Wolf, because he's just come back. He has just returned. Not just returned, but in new Redemptor-sized glory, and to have him get his shit slapped about and then sent running would be massively rubbish, and just not all that great. To be honest, it would be a bit similar to Calgar and Abaddon having a bit of a fisticuffs and then it not really resulting in anything. We don't really want that again. And so we're in a position whereby you could say to yourself, well, surely whoever Ghazghkull fights, he should just win. He should just win. Look at this. Look at the size of the lad for a start. Never mind the fact that he is a vastly strong, powerful orc that has amassed a vast army. He is in a position whereby for him to lose would be kind of garbage. But the problem is, if you introduce another character alongside him, which I can't help but assume that they will, the alternative you're left with is that that character loses. And if that character loses, it's pretty much the same situation, but reversed, whereby you have this person who has undergone the change to Primaris, they've had a fight and they've immediately got their arse handed to them, which is not very satisfying for that side of the story either. The solution is kind of... well, I don't know if there is a solution. to be honest, I think the main solution is either not to have characters fight each other at all, which isn't actually that interesting, or to actually use that as the catalyst for something. This is what I thought would be the case with like Calgar and Abaddon. I thought it'd be a case of mortally wounded. That is an excuse to ascend to Primaris. It's a similar thing with Space Wolves. Like Ghazghkull could beat the shit out of a Space Wolf, whoever, captain of some kind, or maybe an actual, popular character. That'd be nice. And as such, they are given the treatment. They are recovered in new glorious form. That's the only real way to do it, because the only other alternative is that someone loses in a vastly unsatisfying way, or the fight doesn't really matter, which is also not very satisfying. Or alternatively, they just don't fight at all, which could work, but only if done particularly well. I mean, when it comes to Space Wolves versus Orcs and the return of Ghazghkull, the only way I could really see it being not kind of disappointing for either side is if the Space Wolves are just constantly besieged and distracted, fighting groups of Orcs that are, of course, following Ghazghkull, but are not Ghazghkull himself. Ghazghkull is kind of off doing his own thing, beating the hell out of whoever he comes across, in a way that does not mean that the Space Wolves look inherently stupid because they're still reacting to threats, but they are still having enough of a challenge that it looks like they're actually doing something. Otherwise, we could end up being left with that same situation whereby things kind of happen, people arrive, there's a fight, and it just sort of results in not much. And it's the issue. The issue is the fact that quite often it results in not much. It just results in, and nothing really changed. They got new models, yeah, and there was a big fight, yeah, but that's it. It's not massively satisfying, which, to be honest, is an inherent problem anyway. It's one of the things that I think one of the greatest balancing acts with 40k is the fact that it is this perpetual, constant universe that is supposed to be both changing and unchanging at the same time. It's supposed to be a place where things are happening constantly, but at the same time you can't have stuff happening constantly because that means that the status quo changes, and as soon as that happens it all falls apart. And so you have these weird situations where you do have these characters that do amazing, incredible things, and they have a fight and then nothing really happens and nothing really changes because you can't let that happen. It just means that when you have things like a new model for a character as important as Ghazghkull, for me there's the excitement of the new model, there's the excitement of seeing what happens, but there's also just this nagging feeling that they're going to show up and not a lot is going to have really changed with their reappearance. They're going to be back, yeah. They're going to be bigger and better than ever, yes. They're also going to fight someone else who is back and bigger and better than ever, and both of them are just going to go their own separate ways eventually because neither of them can actually afford to lose. Not just in a kind of like a battle of the wills way, but also in a very very genuine the story can't take it kind of way. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, to be fair. I mean, if Ghazghkull comes back and there isn't a Space Wolves character for him to fight, the Space Wolves don't get someone ascending to Primaris, or alternatively, someone ascends to Primaris and takes the place of someone who Ghazghkull has outright murdered, then, again, that's a possible way around it, and that would be interesting, but that still counts as a loss. It's a serious loss for one side, and there are losses, obviously. Things don't always go well for every single faction in 40k, but it feels like it's not a massively regular or preferred thing for any one side to be absolutely crushed with no hope of return because of the status quo and the fact that you can't mess with it. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to Ghazghkull coming back. I'm looking forward to see what they do with the story of Ghazghkull. I'm looking forward to seeing whether they actually have him do something significant, and I'm really hoping that he doesn't end up in that kind of weird middle ground whereby it's not quite a success but not quite a failure and not much actually changes, because I feel like we've had that quite a lot, and I understand why, but that doesn't make it any more satisfying in the long run, does it? So yeah, let me know what you think of potential storylines for Ghaz and a Space Wolves character who may or may not exist, we don't know yet, in the comments down below. Do you think there's been an instance where it's been handled particularly well? And do you think there's an instance where that kind of return or kind of fight has been handled particularly badly? I know I mentioned Calgar and Abaddon. I'd be interested to see whether you think the way they were handled was good or bad. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things, and of course there is a affiliate link in the description down below for Element Games. You can click it and buy something. I get something for saying it that way. You save a bunch of money, and 10% of it goes to charity. It's a nice way to support the channel if you want to, because you were going to buy that stuff anyway. But, of course, I leave it in your capable hands. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.